Hi everyone, my name is Cynus. Welcome to the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please feel free to do so. I release videos every Thursday. It could be anything related to music and games and anything technology related that I really do enjoy. Basically, I'm thinking of starting a new video series on this channel. It mainly boils around something that I have an unhealthy obsession with. So I have an unhealthy obsession with vinyl. I collect a lot of vinyl, I like a lot of different colors, I like different shapes, but it basically encompasses all of the music that I do like, that I enjoy. I'm gonna go over some of them today, and I wanna create a new series, which I like to call What's in My Record Collection. It's in the name. It's in the fucking name. Go ahead and like the video if you like the video and, stick all the way through. Let's get started. So, the first record that I want to show on this collection of records is this one right here. This one is the Blink-182 Dogs Eating Dogs EP. Dogs Eating Dogs was released in 2012. It was self-produced by the band and Chris Holmes. It would be the last record that was recorded with Mark, Tom, and Travis all together in the same place. This came after the recording of Neighborhoods, which was recorded with Tom mostly in a separate studio and Travis and Mark recording in one other studio. So the band felt really split in terms of how the recording was, because you couldn't just jam together. They would send their records via email to each other back and forth and essentially figure out how the album would sound together. And so this posed a bit of a challenge. Just in general, things get lost in translation, and as a band, you can't jam together and make cohesive music. So that's why maybe some of the songs felt a little out of place or felt a little different. That can be attributed to that main fact. So the band decided, you know what, we're gonna get together and we're gonna record in one studio. They got together and they made this thing. So what does the album sound like? This album sounds like if you put Blink-182 at the time, plus 44, and Angels and Airwaves on the same record. When I Was Young is definitely a Blink-182 at the time sounding song. Dogs Eating Dogs definitely is plus 44. Disaster is definitely an Angels and Airwaves song. Boxing Day is a very unique song. It has MIDI drums and it has acoustic guitar, which is a very different tone and definitely different feel to that song, and I actually really enjoy that. Pretty Little Girl is basically a Blink-182 at the time song, but it also features Yellow Wolf, who was recruited by Travis Barker because they worked on a lot of music together, and it's a little jarring at first when you hear it, but it is a pretty cool mix-up, so definitely check this out if you haven't. I actually managed to snag the white version of this album, so it looks like this. It has this really cool graphic on the actual label on the record, and it's a very stylized look. This vinyl came out in 3 different variations. There was a red variation, which there was 1,000 of. There was a white variation, which there was 1,000 of, and there was a black and white splatter version, which there was only 500 of. The black and white variant sold out in 30 seconds. The red version sold out in 5 minutes, and the white version, which I got, sold out in 30 minutes. I have never seen this thing released after that fact, and the cheapest that I've seen this record go for now is $182, which is, come on. I think it's a great album. Go ahead and check it out if you haven't. The next album that I'm going to be talking about is this one right here. This is Nirvana's Unplugged in New York. This was recorded back in late 1993. They were invited to the recently made Unplugged series from MTV. This is essentially where bands would play their stripped down versions of their songs. They do them acoustic or, however they wanted to do them. This was a unique case because they didn't just play their own music, but they actually played covers of a lot of other songs from other people, including Lead Belly, the Meat Puppets, you had Vastelines. These guys actually did that on top of playing some of their biggest hits at the time. The way the set design actually came together was essentially a choice made by Kurt Cobain. Cobain suggested that the stage be decorated with stargazer lilies, black candles, and a crystal chandelier. The show's producer asked him, "You mean like a funeral?" To which Cobain replied, "Exactly, like a funeral." And the sad thing is that Kurt Cobain was found dead next year in his home. What is cool about this record is that this is a limited edition, exclusive, opaque purple vinyl from Target. This is a re-release of the album. This is where Target likes to sort of drop new vinyl of old music, and they decided to do it on this one too. And so when you actually look at the vinyl itself, it's this really nice purple. It is opaque, you can't see through it at all. And it's got this old David Geffen Company label on the front. It is pretty cool. I do like it. It is a cool purple. Not one that I would associate too much with this actual record, but you know what? I think it's a cool variant. What songs on this album stick out to me the most? So they recorded and did a lot of songs that they, you know, typically would put in a set at the time. So you have like About a Girl, Come As You Are. What songs stick out to me though are the covers that they did on this album. For example, The Man Who Sold the World, a cover by David Bowie. That one you've heard to death on your radio. It's been played over and over again. But there's a reason for it. It's because it's actually a really good version of the song. When you actually look at the rehearsal of this recording, which actually there is a full recording of the rehearsal, if you know the song, you actually know that on the solo, he actually misses a note in the very beginning of the solo, and he kind of catches himself onto the right note eventually after missing the first time. On the recording, or on the rehearsal of this track, Kurt Cobain actually doesn't miss the note. And it sounds kind of off. It doesn't sound okay, or it doesn't sound right, because, you know, we've heard the song with the missed note the entire time. And when I first heard it growing up, I kind of was like, it was like, what? He missed the note, and they just kept it going. It's a live recording, obviously, so they have to keep it that way. On the actual rehearsal recording, you hear the notes correctly, but it doesn't have the same character as this version on this recording here. So I would definitely give that points, even though it was a mistake. I think it was the best mistake on this record, if that makes any sense. Another song that I like on here is Lake of Fire, which is a Meat Puppets song. It's just the way that it sounds, it's really gritty. It has this sort of guttural tone to it, which I really do enjoy. Where Did You Sleep Last Night is the Leadbelly song that they covered, and it's just, he belts the fuck out on this track. It's such a good version of this song, and I would just recommend it. If you haven't heard this album before, check out those 3 songs, even though they're covers. If you want to hear a good version of one of their songs, All Apologies is done really well on here. Definitely check this out. You will enjoy it if you do. Moving on to the next album, which is this right here, Walkeryce's Self-Help. Now, Walker and Royce released this album in 2017. I was just getting into Dirty Bird, which is the label that they were under. Dirty Bird is a tech house label, so this is a house album. Walker and Royce are actually a duo consisting of Sam Walker and Gavin Royce. They decided to get together in 2011, and they decided to form the group Walker and Royce. They released a lot of music, a lot of singles over the span of that time frame, but in 2017, they decided to embark on a full-length album. If you haven't heard of these guys, I would highly recommend you check out this record right here. It is a really odd one, but it's a really good one. It's full of vibrant, bright tones. They have rapping on it. They have songs with aliens. Oh my gosh, there's so much on this thing that I would definitely recommend you check out. It's a lot of house music, so if you're into house, I would recommend highly that you listen to this record. There's so much going on with this. My favorite songs on this album, I would say Rub Another Dub featuring Green Velvet, who does the vocals on that track. My Own Thing featuring Sophigraphy, which is it's just a groove. That is a jam of a jam. You'll be strolling down the street, bop into this kind of jam. That's what it feels like. You're walking down the street, kind of bouncing. That's the kind of vibe it gives me. Role Models featuring On Cue. That one is just an absolute slapper. Take Me to Your Leader. That's the lead single off of this album, which features dances with white girls. This whole album is just an absolute slapper. So I would highly recommend it. The actual record itself is black. For whatever reason, these are really hard to come by. I've been searching for this record for a couple of years now. I didn't think to buy it, but ever since then, it's been off the Dirty Bird store, and out of a random whim, I decided to check them out like a week or 2 ago, and I saw this was on there, and I just had to grab it. I nabbed it immediately because I know that this is just not readily available. If you haven't checked out Walker and Royce at all, listen to this album. This will do it for you. I guarantee it. The next album we're going to talk about is this one right here, My Dinosaur Life by Motion City Soundtrack. This album has a lot of sentimental meaning to me because back in 2010, which is when this album actually came out, I would go over to the local Best Buy and actually buy CDs. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, who the fuck buys CDs? The answer is me. I wasn't really aware of buying records, or the records weren't readily available at Best Buy, or if they were, I just never cared to check, and I had a CD player in my car. So after school, I would go to Best Buy. I believe it was on Fridays is when all the new releases would come out. Fridays or Tuesdays. I would actually go over to the Best Buy and I'd see what they have there. I knew my friends were really into this. I know my friend Jen, shout out to you, Jen. She really liked these guys, and so I had to give them a try. So then I went ahead and bought it as a CD, and it was a jam. It was a jam of jams. Motion City Soundtrack is a pop-punk outfit. They have released a lot of music. 2 albums of theirs actually were produced by Mark Hoppus, this being one of them. I was unfamiliar at the time when I bought this that Mark Hoppus actually worked on the album, but I decided to give it a shot. To my surprise, this is actually one of their highest rated albums, or highest critically acclaimed albums that they've released. Some songs on here that I really do like. Worker Bee is just a fantastic opener to this album. I would say Stand Too Close is a great slow jam. It's kind of a slower jam. It's got acoustic guitars and claps. It's a really nice song. Delirium actually has a really cool bass opening, so it's a bass, drum, and vocal opening that just sounds so cool and leads into a great jam. Every song on this album is an absolute bop, so I would highly recommend this album if you haven't given Motion City Soundtrack a shot. This is the Music on Vinyl 10th anniversary release. There was about 1,500 copies of this on a flaming vinyl, that's what they call it. It is orange. Oh, there's actually a nice graphic on this side of the dinosaur, which is really cool, and the actual orange itself, the splatter that they have on it, is really sick. This is just a great album. I would highly recommend this one if you haven't listened to them before. Next album that I actually want to talk about, this one right here, Rufus Du Sol's Bloom. Rufus Du Sol is an Australian outfit. They write a lot of tracks and albums that I would probably consider very deserty sounding records. So if you're in the desert and you hear sort of like a tribe going, it's hard to explain, but I would say that's the sort of vibe. And what's funny too is that after watching some interviews with the band, they actually would go to a local beach out in Sydney, and they would actually get inspiration from the ocean and from being on the beach over there. So what I would consider to be a desert vibe, and what a lot of people consider to be a desert vibe, actually stems from being near the ocean. This album essentially sounds like if you're coming home from a desert rave and you're on the drive. Very cool sounding, very vibrant. It's basically unlike anything I've heard before. There's a lot of great tracks on this thing. There's a lot of 4-to-the-floor kicks and a lot of synths that sort of bring everything together in a really harmonious way. A song that really got me into them in the first place was one that I think a lot of people have heard, is You Were Right. Just everything, the way it comes together, the synths that sort of roll through, it's a really great track. The rest of the album sounds in line with that. However, the one track that I would recommend, if you listen to them at all for any length of time, I would say Inner Bloom, which is a 9-minute epic of a song. It transcends, it flows, it takes you to different spaces in your head, into the ethereal realm, essentially. It's a really great track. It gets a lot of people into these guys. People like Justin Martin put that song in his sets. And if you know Justin Martin, you know he doesn't just pick any old song to put in a set. So Inner Bloom is definitely one I'd recommend off of this album. The album itself, the one that I bought, is actually just a black variant. However, the actual label on the record itself has this really nice, almost like a light purple. It's the same purple that matches the back of this actual record itself. Also, when the band first made this record, a lot of the songs were named after different sea creatures, and then they eventually changed it. And a lot of the songs were inspired about coming home. They were on the road a lot for their previous album that they had released, Atlas, and they were basically homesick, and so a lot of the actual lyrics that were on this record were based off of being home and having relationships, but coming home to them. A lot of it was inspired by that, or by being near the beach in Sydney. And so if you haven't checked out this record, you are seriously missing out. This is a great record, Rufus Du Sol's Bloom. And the final album I want to talk about is this one right here. This is The Story So Far's Proper Dose. This record came after a bit of a hiatus that the band took, or a bit of a break that they took, because the lead singer Parker actually was involved in a couple of scandals that got him into a little bit of trouble. One of them kicking an audience member off the stage in the chest. He actually was in a bit of a funk. He hadn't written any lyrics. He kind of fell out of love of music, and he had been using a lot of drugs, and so the band actually decided to stage an intervention for him, which he said actually helped him out quite a bit and got him back into the love of music. The title actually came from him saying that he was always chasing the proper dose for getting his high, which he equated to never being as satisfactory as being in front of a live audience. The actual record itself opens up, and this gatefold is actually really beautiful. I love the pictures on this thing. It just looks really, you know, kind of vintagey, but it also has a bit of a new factor to it. The actual record itself looks really cool. It has this purple splatter, and then I would almost describe the inner bit. It looks like a splattered cum stain. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It looks looks a little cummy, the story so far. It looks a little bit like a cum stain. But you know what? I'm not gonna deny that it doesn't look cool, because it looks fucking awesome. Some songs that I really do enjoy off of this record include Out of It, which I actually heard as a single before and was actually produced by a different producer. It retains a lot of the same punch and a lot of the same sort of energy that comes with basically any Story So Far record. I really enjoy Keep This Up and Proper Dose, which are the first songs on the record. The whole thing feels really well written. The lyrics are very inspired. It's a good record. I know it's a deviation from a lot of their previous stuff, which is a lot of what people mentioned as well. This does have a different feel to it, which I'm okay with because I really do enjoy the vibrant energy of this record. All right, and that's gonna do it. We've made it through the first version of What's in My Record Collection, episode 1. If you haven't already, please go ahead and give this video a like if you liked it, and go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. I would love to make more of these things. I have tons of more records that I just haven't shown you guys yet. I also stream on Twitch on Fridays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. I'm gonna be at Cynus Music, that's how you'll find me. I'm not gonna be making or releasing a video next week, but I will be back on the week after, and I will be streaming this Friday, but I will not be streaming this Saturday or next Saturday. However, the week after that, we will be back in action. So please feel free to give me a follow on the platforms that I have provided in the description box down below. And if you want to see more content like this, just let me know in the comments. Let me know how you felt about it, if there's anything I need to change, anything I need to add, what you'd rather see or what you would want to see in a future episode. And until then, peace out, peeps. Thank you so much. Have yourself a good rest of your day.